Today, we're calculating 13 weeks of cash flow for construction subcontractors. I'm going to show you how to do it like a CFO. And here's the thing, you don't need to hire anyone to do it for you. You can do it all by yourself. It just takes conviction to stick to the plan that most don't have. What you need to understand is where your cash is coming in and going out to visualize your bank account weeks in advance. And once you get it nailed down, you can test scenarios in your forecast to see if potential projects or ideas work without the risk of trying. So this is part 2 of the mini series to give you the 3 steps to correct your cash flow problems immediately. Again, if you do all of these biweekly, I guarantee your company will not have cash flow problems. I know this because construction finance is all I do. All right, if you don't have the cash flow forecasting spreadsheet, download the free copy of this one in the description and go back and check out the overhead video. I built this for owners like you to quickly understand money issues the next 3 months before they happen. Again, anything in yellow are cells we edit. We'll start with today's date. This is so when we save as a PDF at the end, we know what date this was projected on. Next is cash at the beginning of the period. This is your available cash in the bank, not AR, loans, credit cards, or any other working capital. The first section are income sources. These are cash in and are primarily project ARs, but could be things like selling a vehicle or a piece of equipment. You can rename the project to be a project name so you know exactly which job is doing what. Just know this is down to your contract, and most contracts now are pay when paid, with the grace period being 5 to 10 business days to pay you. That means if you build $10,000 in January, you won't receive it until March 5th through 10th contractually. Past that, it's technically late, so you send a notice of non-payment, but that's another video. Just keep that in mind when it comes to projecting when you'll receive the money. You need to plan how that money is going to last you for 4 or so weeks to the next payday. Now we'll look at cash out starting with overhead. In the last video, I showed you the overhead tab that helps you identify weekly and monthly costs in your overhead that are every week. Those are all shown in the white cell, so we won't touch those because they're equations. You have to go back to the overhead tab to calculate that. This isn't perfect. For example, an annual subscription won't be billed weekly or monthly, but this helps plan those expenses your entire year and not miss something at the sacrifice of perfect spending. Anything above and beyond all of that overhead costs but isn't job specific, we have lines for those expenses that come up and we can rename them. Things that I've seen go in there are a one-time donation, company headshots, estimated overtime for hourly overhead people, like your office admin if you're behind during tax season. You have to know your company's process. For example, if you pay biweekly, you'll have to assign the overhead cost to the right week. So if they do it today, they're really not going to get paid out for 2 more weeks on that. So just put it under the right week. You can add expenses. Just right-click on expense number 6 and click Insert. It'll format the cells to know what you can fill out and adds into the equation at the bottom automatically. Next is the toughest part because it can be so complicated, but these are project expenses. I don't have it broken out by project because at that point it becomes so much data to update, it consumes too much time for the value that you get out of the spreadsheet. So this is what it is. Think how many employees you have working on projects. Apprentices, journeymen, foremen, supers, PMs, APMs, PEs, project accountants, all of those that are direct job expenses, as in their time is tracked on a job. Add all of those together and put in their 40-hour week unburdened rate, since this was added in the overhead calculator. Then If you have additional weeks you plan to do overtime, add that separately in the line below. After labor, we focus on material. It's hard to lump everything together, so what I typically do are add lines and name them either by vendor or by purchase order number because I know when those are going to be due. Then we're going to get into subcontractors and rental equipment. Same thing as what we just did for material. Next is the other cash out. These are things like paying back loans, credit cards, vehicle and equipment payments, or an owner's draw. Now, this is where most people stop when they think of cash flow. The cash came in, the cash goes out. I need to figure out how I'm going to make that just work. But there's one more step that is so critical to take you to the next level of being a construction subcontractor. Oftentimes we have a delta around week 4 because we're struggling to use money to pay for the whole next month of the cost to build. You can't hold off paying employees for 4 weeks until you collect that next paycheck. So you have to strategically plan that money. So we add in this extra area, another cash in section, but it's for working capital. I like to call this the delta. We have to manage the delta. That's what makes us great subcontractors or failing companies. So if in week 4 we are going to dip below our minimum, whether that's a set number like 6 months of operating cash or $0 because you don't have an emergency fund, you pick. We will plan to pull money out of different areas to pay for that delta today and we'll just pay it back later. Things that you can use are pay app advances, various bank loans, private loans, etc. That's the key to surviving the construction industry. It's not the cash in and cash out, it's how you manage that delta between the two when it's negative. The last cell I have for you to enter is the don't let cash below cell. General advice is 3 months of operating cash, but I tell people 6 months because if you want to double your revenue, 6 months of today's revenue is only 3 months of your doubled revenue. And that's the secret to show you the next 13 weeks of your bank account. Earlier I mentioned a 3-step process, so if you want to see how this ties into the 24-month plan, check out this last video.